Radcast News. Hey guys, Ryan Alford, your host of the Radcast.
You're listening to the Radcast.
If it's radical, we cover it. Here's Ryan and Riley.
Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest edition of the Radical Marketing Podcast, joined by my partner in crime on many of these episodes, Robbie Fitzwater. Good to be officially social distancing, my brother.
It's good to see you again through a computer this time, but we're keeping it safe and healthy. And it's
I know.
My audio quality is going to be a little bit worse than yours is, but yeah, that's what it is.
Hey, I've got this. For those watching, if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you end up hearing this, you're not going to get the full effect. But I do have my handy dandy Shure mic. If Michael Jackson can record an album on it, I think I can use it for a podcast.
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah,
I need all the help I can get for making my voice sound amazing. But
and mine sounds like I'm just going through puberty. So.
I know, but maybe we'll avoid too many of the Zoom follies. Those have been fun watching as people around the globe are now doing more and more Zoom, WebEx, insert video conference here. What was it like a year ago? Novel, that one viral video of the guy with the kids in the background, like doing stuff that was funny, and now it's still funny, but it's like universal.
That's 2:00. I mean, that's every day. I mean,
exactly.
Every person has kind of adopted the we're going to try and make it all work, and whatever happens inside of our Zoom environment, it's part of the standard operating procedure. I think everybody's also adopted the Zoom uniform of the button-up shirt with like shorts below, and it's like the mullet of clothing. It's like business on top, party down below.
I'm gonna save you from my Mr. T pajama pants, but for those that don't remember the A Team, but B.A. Baracus, was that his name? Going a little back a little far, maybe far for you. Maybe aging myself.
It's a little bit before my time.
I'm going deep. Well, cool. I'm glad we could reconnect and get the podcast back going after we talked. I've had a couple guests on since we last spoke, but I know we wanted to talk today a little bit as we talked pre-show about the new normal for both business and marketing, and really holistically, it's world pandemics seem to touch everything, don't they?
Just a little bit of everything. I don't know if there's anything kind of shielded from this. Like, every industry is impacted. Everybody's life is impacted in some way. And yeah, if things are just everybody's kind of embracing that new role of like, okay, you live and work at the same place. You eat and sleep at the same place. And just kind of everything happens in this one location that is your house or your apartment or wherever you're at. And it's kind of, you kind of hit that cruising speed of like every day is the same, and there's no weekends or there's no weekdays or weekends anymore. It's just kind of business as usual, all the same. And
that has been the strangest thing. It's funny you say that. Like, I'm having a real hard time. Like, we're obviously trying to keep normalcy for the kids and stuff like that. But my days are, you always get a little off balance. You'll have, a strange week or something like that. I can't remember what day it is. You've been so busy. But like, I'm having this real hard mental struggle with dividing like the weekend from the work week, because very obviously I'm putting the work down as much as possible. But in our business, marketing and advertising, I feel like I'm a little bit always on, just available. We're in client service. So there's some of that always on, even when I'm on the weekend. So I'm having a real hard time delineating days.
It's really crazy. And honestly, it's kind of, you see it in the behavior across the board. Like, I think that, like, working with some email clients, I would never suggest, like, we're in the place where, like, would never suggest, yeah, you send an email at 8:30 on a Friday night, never. Or 8:30 on a Saturday night, absolutely never. But right now, suddenly everybody's got that same kind of weekday routine where that's probably when they're putting the kids to bed. That's probably when they're bringing their phones out and taking some time to relax on the sofa, which is when you want to be serving up information. But it's kind of that consistency where it never really ends. And it's the behavior change has been kind of unique to see. I think some groups have seen a big spike in e-commerce sales like at 11 p.m. or 12 p.m., which are much later than they normally would be. And then kind of the people are sleeping in a little bit later and just they don't have that same kind of, I've got to get up and commute to work. So their behaviors change just a little bit. It's really kind of unique to see kind of how that blend is happening pretty quickly. And kind of now that we've hit that kind of cruising speed of what life looks like on this side of it.
And we talked about it. It's like, in some ways it's changed things, most certainly, but it appears, I think, to both of us to be gas on a fire that's been lit for a while in a lot of ways for the trends of business, the trends of sales and tactics and marketing as a whole. I think it's just really escalated that ball rolling down the hill, don't you think?
I think it's kind of, it's really sped the progress of every industry kind of in some different ways. Like where we saw e-commerce is kind of that kind of thing off in the distance for a lot of traditional retail businesses, suddenly becomes something like a must and a necessary need to have, because that's where everybody's doing business. It sneaks in from a smaller portion of our economy and suddenly becomes a really large portion of our economy. Like traditional, I think advertising is going to be thrown off in some really unique ways too, is like without live sports, without a lot of new programming on traditional television, like is traditional TV going to be as appealing as it was a year ago? Or even billboards with fewer people driving and traffic down over 50% in a lot of places, your billboard is going to be as appealing. Or radio, with radio being down, is that going to be as exciting for a lot of people as it would be traditionally? But you see like video game streaming. Like I think that's a really fascinating insight into some of this. Is ESPN doesn't have programming right now, so they're suddenly streaming video games. Does that make video game streaming a lot more realistic for a kind of a broader audience? And is this suddenly a new opportunity for a lot of people to take advantage of? So it's really just kind of accelerated the progress that was happening, but it just kind of shifted us almost 10 years forward really fast. So those are some examples, and there's probably a lot more that are just really unique, that industries are just shifting really quickly, and the way people engage in our behavior is really kind of accepted fast, and then kind of accepted as the new normal. Like again, like these Zoom meetings we're on right now.
I know. And it's funny you brought up, I'm going to touch on a little bit because I have a friend that's in esports. He's actually the play-by-play voice, Scott Cole, play-by-play for NBA 2K, or whatever it is now, NBA 2K20. However they pronounce it, and he'll probably beat me up if he hears this. And I don't know the exact terminology, but he's huge in esports, has a huge following on Twitter, and being the voice of it, I've watched his career trajectory and watched Twitch, which is a huge growing platform for watching other people play esports and video games in general. And again, it was one of those things that was rolling down the hills. Definitely one of the faster growing social platforms, if you want to call it that. It's kind of a little bit of a hybrid.
I think it falls into the category of social platform. It's a space where people can come connect around a common idea or something. But yeah, I think it's probably one of the biggest up and coming social networks on the internet right now. So I'll go that far.
I think you're going to see, advertisers and marketers with esports. Again, we're already going there. So it's not like we're saying, oh, look at this platform, Twitch, that just started in the pandemic. No, this has been becoming huge anyway. But again, with no other live sports, you've got NBA players playing each other for the live tournament they've had on ESPN. You've got NASCAR has been doing these virtual races. I give NASCAR credit being a little bit ahead of the game. They were out there before I think even NBA was. I think because I just was seeing at least the headlines on my sports feed. But again, out there with their race car drivers doing the virtual races. And I think you're going to see the interest in that become even greater because you're people that you have captive audiences that want to watch some form of live, unknown ending content and sports. And so you're going to see people trialing things that they may have been quasi interested in, but now they've got time on their hands. They can trial it and see if they are interested in it. So which is naturally going to create more adoption of it. And so you're going to think that you see smart marketers and businesses thus advertising even more on these platforms.
I mean, I think it's probably, I think some of those platforms offer those opportunities, but I think, yeah, it's definitely one of those places a lot more people are going to be focusing time and attention. And honestly, I mean, marketing dollars go to where eyeballs go. And because people spend so much time on those streaming platforms, like that's a really viable audience. And if depending on the streaming platform it is, depending on what the audience is, you probably have more data on that audience and probably understand the insights around that audience a lot better than you would traditional television. But you also probably have a really captive audience of people who are really passionate about one specific thing. And also probably jumping on board with some of the really well-known streamers in that space. I'm sure their profile, I know a lot of social influencers, like travel influencers, I guess your equity probably went down a little bit as a travel influencer, not being necessarily able to post every other place, but as a streamer and kind of somebody in that space, their equity probably goes way up because you suddenly have a lot larger audience and you can command eyeballs the way that very few people can right now. And it's just less competition in the market because there's no sports, there's no travel influencers. There's so many industries that have just kind of fallen off and so many kind of outlets that have just fallen off that it offers a lot of opportunity for people to discover new things and then for people to dive deeper in the things they were already interested in.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the gaming space is so fascinating to me because video games, I will be the first person to tell you, like, video games are not my sport. Like, I'm horrible at video games. I can do most things, but I'm a horrible video game player. But you see people who are streamers and kind of people who are in that world and they love it. That's their jam. And while it isn't for everybody, like the riches are in the niches and they own the niches in so many unique ways that if you're a streamer and you have an audience, like they trust you, they know you. And again, as a marketer, like they can build an authentic relationship between your brand and that individual. So there's a lot of probably potential that's coming through that marketers probably need to be aware of and probably kind of have their eyes open to that probably would have happened 5 years, 10 years from now. It's probably accelerated into this next year because no Olympics, no live sports, no MLB right now, no NBA. Like that's a big market of people who are just looking for things to do right now.
Yeah. And I think, if I'm counseling anyone, I know a lot of business owners listen to our podcast and, a lot of my, friends and colleagues and stuff. The one thing I just want to tell people, and some people they're grasping this now. The world isn't going back to normal. There's no going back. Don't get me wrong. We will congregate again. There will be sports again. Like, I'm not saying that. I don't know. I'm not going to guess on dates. But back to what we started, if you're hoping and praying and, and I always joke, hope is not a strategy, my friend. But that the world as we know it's going to come back, you need to be preparing yourself and your business for the realities that are in front of us. And because it's not going to be business as usual for anyone. No,
I think it's changing quickly and it's it's evolving fast, and it's not even the same as it was a few weeks ago. I think now that we've kind of hit our stride, you don't see the toilet paper isn't a hot commodity the way it was a few weeks ago. Like, people can probably find toilet paper. If you're desperate, you can probably find it at this point. It's kind of, we're going through that stage of where we had that initial shock to the system of, oh my gosh, what's going on? We've got to like hold ourselves and like make sure the world's not coming to an end. And now we've kind of like come out of that, where we're able to kind of take, okay, we're safe and comfortable. We're here at home. We're alive. We're going to be fine. We have all of our necessities met. And now we're going up kind of, I think I mentioned to you that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that I know it sounds super, super academic and super kind of a little bit different, but if those needs are met lower on that pyramid, where you have your safety and security, you have your like love and belonging, you can start moving up farther and farther. So even in purchasing patterns, like that first week, everybody's going out buying bread, milk, toilet paper, those necessities that everybody needs and you have to have because you feel like the world's coming to an end. We've kind of transitioned from that to okay, let's go. We have to function at home. We're going to need to know what life looks like on this side. So, hey, let's go get a webcam. Let's go get a ring light and let's get some really comfy pants to wear when we're on a Zoom meeting, because nobody can see what you're wearing down below. And we've kind of fallen into that place like, okay, I'm going to get like some home workout equipment and some things to do at home so I can feel like more myself and I can work, I can function here. And we're kind of gradually going up that ladder of kind of, at this point, we're going to be looking for love and belonging. We're going to be looking for esteem and self-actualization. So for some of those businesses, some of those purchases are coming back into the fold where they may be able to sell. I mean, athleisure clothing is probably going to be going up pretty soon because people know they're going to be spending more time at home. They want to be comfortable. And it's just kind of thinking about what people need at this time and how their brains are trying to connect different dots around the pandemic, what's going on outside, and how we can kind of shelter from it here, and then kind of gradually start to become more comfortable in the new normal.
Yep. And I think, they say there's a million sayings on how many days it takes to change behavior and habits and all that, but we're at 30 days now. So we're creating new habits and new procedures and new ways with which we do things. And it was an adjustment period and okay, I can't wait to go back. Now new habits form. And so things like takeout food and food delivery, it's out of necessity and must now for anyone at home that, needs something besides groceries and still wants that luxury. But I think you're going to see an increase in these things where, takeout and delivery may have been 15 to 20% of the average restaurant's business. Even when they get a vaccine, even when it goes all clear, yes, there might be an initial rush back, but we've created new habits and new things where, oh, that food can be taken out. Oh, I can enjoy it at home. I think you're going to see those numbers, teeter in the 40 to 50% range because people are just are getting ingrained with new behaviors.
I mean, it's especially with food and kind of those necessities that people thought, okay, I could never do that in the past. Or there's a lot of things that people thought I can never do or I can never try that really are becoming really normal. And honestly, like, especially with food and groceries, like we've been using Instacart and ordering from Publix here in Greenville, but it's fantastic because we don't have to go through the logistical nightmare of, okay, I've got our 10-month-old and I can get there, push him around in the stroller and push a shopping cart at the same time. It's suddenly, hey, we're going to order this through an app on our phone. They're going to deliver it in a few hours, hopefully. And it's going to be pretty seamless. And next time we want to order something, they've already got our grocery list built for us. If we make it consistent, then that's really easy for us. And it's kind of behaviors that people are probably not going to go back to. Sometimes you want to go to a place and discover new things, but if that's a higher level of convenience and saving you time and energy, then it's an absolute kind of transition into a new normal, because it's so much more simple where you can just have a consistent running grocery list with your spouse and yourself or whoever else, and add things to an Instacart list. I think we'll probably see like a few dark grocery stores pop up around this area, because we don't necessarily need a forward-facing Publix for people to search around for things. We could probably have things kind of picked up from like a storage location and brought to your house. So not as much overhead, not as many employees, and we'll probably see a little bit more efficiency there too.
Yep. And then you're going to see things like the ones that win the game, whether, like Amazon now, cross-selling, upselling, the digital, call it the digital point of, grocery stores are marketing machines. They're built in a certain order for you to purchase things. End caps, marketing. The bread is always as far away as possible. The milk, they want you to go buy as many. It's every aisle. I've explained this to my wife, Nicole, a few times. Like, you understand why that's next to that item, right? I mean, like strategically, and I'm not talking about peanut butter and jelly here. Like, I'm talking like, this is strategy and point of sale. You're going to see that same thing transfer to every industry. And yes, some of that's e-commerce 101, but industries that haven't historically been e-commerce driven are going to have to rethink through the marketing and positioning of those online shopping experiences.
I mean, it's probably, I think for this new world, I think brand becomes a more important topic, because I think that brand and not being commodity, if you're going to be purchased, I don't think you can play the price game as much in some cases. Like, if you're purchasing through if you're purchasing through an Instacart, you don't see, hey, this has got a discount on it of this point of like 50%, like 50% off or 50 cents off for each can. You don't see that same kind of price wars going on in real time. So I think that brand experience becomes even more important, because there's probably going to be less switching. So once you purchase something, there's not as much likelihood of kind of poaching that purchase. If you're on Amazon, they're probably going to be more aggressive around replenishable products. So them creating Amazon basics around replenishable products that they can start replacing in people's baskets, or offering that option. So again, kind of that unique world of dancing with the devil on Amazon. But there's probably a lot more improvement that brands can be doing to make sure they establish themselves as a value-added service, or a differentiated brand, as opposed to the commodity that everybody else kind of falls into. And you see it in grocery, but if you're going to be taking a lot of other industries into that same kind of space, the brands that do really well in the e-commerce space that aren't trying to battle Amazon are the brands that differentiate themselves with brand. And that's the ones that can kind of develop a relationship and develop a consistent buying pattern with their customers. So yeah. I think those are the ones that probably really need to understand, like, brands that aren't doing that probably need to get on board with it and start to understand what's different about us, or what will make people actually want to come to us one time and then come back. So it's going to become more and more important, and you're probably going to, again, with less brick and mortar sales coming right now in the near term, how are you going to react to that larger marketplace of e-commerce?
Yeah. And speaking of Amazon, now's the time, if you weren't already ahead of this with your D2C brand or your e-commerce, and you think, well, it's too late, now's the time to get that up as fast as possible, because you've got, Wounded Warrior a little bit down because everyone's overloaded them. They're only serving up essentials. Their biggest differentiators are pretty much muted right now. And so if you can get up and going, because I imagine they're going to be they're going to be dealing with this for, at least a month or two. I would imagine.
I think right now on as of April 15th, all the shipping, like estimated shipping dates for just about everything said May 7th my wife and I were looking last night. So May 7th. So the differentiator of instant delivery, and then differentiator of having everything in in one basket to purchase isn't there. And also for e-commerce businesses, like I mentioned in, I think it may have been last time, I think long-term digital ad prices are going to go up, but in the short term, they are so low. It's like buying Facebook ads in 2015 suddenly. There's like 40% 40% less, 50% less in some industries, because travel, tourism, all of these industries have just completely fallen off the radar. So the inventory is already up. Plus, people are spending a lot more time on their phones. So that's even more opportunity for those ads to be served up. So right now it's cheaper and it's a lot more efficient. You don't have the biggest competition you're going to face. So right now, like doubling down on the e-commerce strategy, like that's super important. And you see some retailers out there that have had, I mean, their weeks lately have been like Black Friday like, and they're trying to like reverse engineer their site to be to not convert as quickly because their warehouses can't keep up with it. So it's really fascinating to see how fast some of these businesses can grow off the back of Amazon not necessarily working as efficiently, and I mean ads being a lot cheaper than they normally would be.
Yep. And I've personally bought a couple things that we needed for work, on this, more the technical side that I would have normally, I went to Amazon, but to your point, it was like 3 or 4 weeks and I went straight to somewhere else. It was actually a little cheaper and I got it in 3 days. Now there's some shipping delays around for everyone on some things, just depending on where you are and stuff like that. But, I was like, this is a first, but it's just more a tell that now is the time to take advantage, and you need to be doing it anyway. Again, this was a ball that was rolling downhill anyway. And if you weren't already on it, you need to be on it if you have a direct to consumer opportunity, and leveraging this time and however long it might be with Amazon. And you may sell on Amazon too, but it's not to say that's not a legitimate platform for selling for a lot of people. But now's the time to be building your customer base. And, everyone that's had their own channels before this is thanking their lucky stars that they invested in that.
And then the best part about it is afterwards, like, again, when this kind of gold rush may end, where things kind of like where industries come back online, Amazon gets back up and running at full steam, like they're going to be stronger than ever. I think there's probably going to be a lot of consolidation of power with Amazon after this, because some of those smaller players are going to drop off and people are going to be purchasing more consistent products on Amazon and kind of going to Amazon for some of those first purchases. So there will be kind of a consolidation of power. I'm sure a lot of people have actually joined Prime since it's happened because they just want Amazon Prime Video right now too. So they suddenly have that option they may not have had before. But right now, like for those businesses and brands that are they have that opportunity, like they also have an opportunity to retain those customers. Like right now is the time that they need to kind of be opening that door and then doubling down on owning that relationship. Like get to know their customers, building a relationship. And in some cases, like if you're not extremely busy and you're not kind of growing faster than you can handle, taking this time to really double down on things that don't normally scale, because you have that time to invest with those core customers who are going to be the core to kind of see you through this and are going to be your biggest advocates after this is slowed down a little bit more, or kind of the dust settles a little bit more than it is right now. I think that's one really unique piece of this, is that retention strategy, and how do you really manage those relationships in the digital space suddenly, when a lot of brick and mortar retailers, they roll out the red carpet for somebody in store, but they don't always transition that relationship to an online space. They suddenly have this opportunity to do just that and really make an impact with their client base. I think it's kind of going to be cool to see kind of, again, we talked about the innovation happening last time, but some of those other innovations that can happen there, because if you know your customer in a really intimate way, you have a lot of good information to share. And you have a lot of people who are kind of the fires under you have the fire under them to try and make this shift really quickly. And they're going to take a lot of those kind of unique skills and unique information that they knew as a kind of an expert in that space, and bring it to a digital space. And at scale, that really works in a large capacity, because they're bringing their expertise and knowledge to a digital climate, which doesn't always have a lot of that information.
Yep. Totally agree. Maybe it's like our little lightning round here. If I'm going to turn Robbie, and I know I'm not, but I'm going to turn him into a futurist. But is there anything, tactical for people listening? We've talked about a few things. What we're seeing is the new normal, Is there anything that we haven't covered, one or two things on your list or in your mind that this will be the new normal, and this is, again, whether you're, not necessarily guessing the future, but assuming just by the nature of what's happening, by the nature of things that were already happening, is there one or two nuggets you'd want to drop on things you think are going to be that new normal?
I think so. For right now, I think in the near term, I think expect people to be spending more time on their phones, more time on screens. So as a marketer, I'm always thinking, where's behavior going? And what does that translate to? So again, we've seen a really dramatic increase in the amount of screen time the average adult in the US or the average adult has on their phone, because they suddenly don't have that commute. So that's an hour or 30 minutes more of the day that they can consume media and consume information. So a lot of that screen time is going to translate to, again, more buying, more purchases being made online, and then also more opportunity for brands to connect. Like there's a reason Google and Facebook really want self-driving cars, because more media you can consume during the day. But I think that online behavior of spending more time on the phone is going to be there. And I think communicating and transacting in more ways in that space is going to also be there. So I think more online mobile purchasing is going to continue to rise. I think people are going to feel more comfortable making purchases on a mobile device that they may not have had in the past, where you're going to have more kind of spur of the moment decisions being made on a mobile device than you would where people would normally be doing more heavy lifting on their computer. So I think people being able to find their community in the ways that are going to be more interesting to them, kind of more contextual to their life. And I also think brands are going to start to invest in a lot more content, because people are going to be spending more time consuming that content. And with that quality content, it's going to be a lot more opportunities for people to kind of differentiate themselves in that space too. Again, I think brand's going to be more important coming out of this. So I think from that perspective, if you can kind of give people an outlet through your brand, then you really win, because people are looking for outlets in different ways. People are looking for ways to manage their time or something that better suits their needs. And for businesses, that's going to ideally fit right in line with that. And then I keep thinking is if you can spend this time turning your good customers into your great customers, really focus on who that customer is, what their needs are, and how to really maintain that relationship. Because if you can develop a differentiated relationship, when Amazon, the big kid on the block, comes back into play, it's not going to be as strong, because you've kind of laid the groundwork for something that's a lot more intimate, a lot more personal, and can't be scaled the same way that Amazon can scale everything else.
Love it. Really good. Really good.
I give the same answers every time. I'm a one-trick pony.
Oh no, I think there was some special marinara sauce on those. That was definitely not that. That wasn't just your normal rigatoni. I liked it. I've got mine are pretty ground level. I think we've covered the big hitters. I think you summed them up nicely there. Mine are more. And I keep going back to the restaurant thing, probably, being an agency that worked with a couple, it's fresh of mind, especially with the pivot they've had to do to take out and all of that. But I would be thinking about the way with which, and I'm going to use the restaurant as the example, but I think it applies to any industry, law, insurance, whatever. I think the impact is going to be there. I think there's people that are going to change their entire concept. Like a restaurant's going to change their concept. They're going to realize, hey, this doesn't deliver well. This is not a good food, a good recipe for delivery. This is not a good recipe for takeout. There's just stuff that doesn't translate. We talk with a group, we're actually having restaurant groups call us because, we have a reputation in that space, and we've been counseling them on online ordering and a lot of things. And so we have some forward-thinking groups that are out there going, hey, want to work with you. And we're having strategic discussions with them. And, they're thinking about it the way they should. They're thinking, we're probably going to redo our concept because we know that this is going to stay. And we didn't get dish by dish. But I think it's a good parallel that you need to be thinking about the services that you offer. And in this new normal, how you need to be serving them up. If there's a new recipe, if there's a new way, not just obviously digital is going to be huge, obviously e-commerce, those kind of things. But I'm thinking even more in the meat of it, the recipes of these things, you need to be thinking about them. And we can't go down list by list, but I think that's the way business owners need to be thinking is, what does this mean for, again, the restaurant analogy is, it wasn't set up this great, wonderful pasta dish that's awesome every time someone comes and sits and eat. I kind of give it the Firehouse sub analogy. I hate Firehouse to go. Firehouse subs are delicious at the Firehouse because they're steamed and they're warm and they're wonderful. But a to-go Firehouse sub, by the time you get home, it's kind of like, I could have just had Subway, and no brand favoritism here, but that's what you got to think about, or think about their packaging. How do they keep that steam in there, or whatever that is, to keep that experience? And so the blending of these recipes, thinking about the recipe of your business differently given the new normal. And then lastly, I have been so far against, I like to be more practical in my recommendations, the whole AR, VR thing. But I will say this, whoever can crack the code for retail experience that as much as possible. I give the examples sometimes because, department store shopping, again, back to the grocery store, is strategically laid out, but you can kind of go around, and whoever can blend the digital world with the physical world in the VR space or the AR space, to whether it's you're walking into the virtual dressing room and you're able to try these things on. And I know there's some basic stuff like that, like with Oculus and those things, but whoever can crack that code fastest and best is going to make a lot of money, and they're going to sell it to other people. And you're going to have advertising in these VR spaces and marketing. You're going to go into virtual dressing rooms and there's going to be a billboard on the wall. I can't help but think that that's coming, but whoever can crack that code the fastest will win. It'll probably be Amazon or Google or Facebook, I'm sure.
Let's be honest, it definitely will be. But yeah, it's really the case though, because like, again, coming out of this, like you've seen department stores, it's been a consistent downward trend. Like it's not, JCPenney does not have that much upside right now. They're a blimp sinking and gradually getting lower as opposed to a crashing plane. But this, in some ways, like it takes those businesses and turns them into a crashing plane. So less of those opportunities for discovery in kind of the short term in the real world. And suddenly you need something like that to go try on something. You can't necessarily go to the mall because they may not be there in some cases. So a lot of those department stores may be disrupted, but I think that's a good call out. And that VR experience is going to be kind of, hopefully whoever does make that work, again, people are looking for an outlet and a way to spend some time. That's an escape, and that's something novel and new and unique. Right now we're in a time of novel, new and unique, where that's just the new normal. So that behavior is going to be a lot more accessible. And yeah, I think
it's got to be done where I don't get feel like I just rode a roller coaster when I put the goggles on for 30 seconds.
Yeah,
whoever figures that out, will win.
Yeah. So anybody over 30, I think that's the kind of the say what, like people over 30 have a little bit more trouble. So I'm on that side of things too. No, I'm going to feel like I'm just got off a roller coaster, but it's trying to make that accessible, make it easy, and not make your brain freak out and think it's just the world's the floor is spinning all the time. But then too, in the restaurant space, like how much money could a restaurant save if they take out the overhead of that full physical restaurant? Like if they're just a space, you probably see restaurants consolidate. Maybe they could take over maybe that you have a bunch of restaurants teamed up and they take over a bunch of JCPenney's and they just consolidate in there. The space that was JCPenney is now 100 quick serve restaurants where
New York was doing that. I mean, already New York City, some of the bigger cities had those Uber Eat kitchens, almost like it's like they set them up. They were 100% like that. They didn't even have it. So that was that again coming, but now going to escalate quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the physical storefront, maybe dropping down, but the digital storefront is that much more important.
Yeah, it is.
Again, we could go for a little bit longer than people on the podcast would probably appreciate. So yeah, we'll get off.
I think we've gave him some good meat today. Robbie, always appreciate it, brother. And stay safe. And I know we'll be talking and working through some projects and different things, but look forward to the next one. And
yeah, this was fun. Thank you
great.
very much.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. This is the latest episode of the Radical Company podcast. Follow us online at radical.company, and you can find us on Instagram at radical_results. Always thanks to Robbie Fitzwater. You can find Robbie on all the social media channels, or just go to the Clemson University directory.
Yeah, so I'm just about anywhere. But it's been a pleasure, Ryan, and again, always fun to talk shop. So,
All right, bro.
Okay,
See ya.
We'll sign off now. And yeah, do you want to keep talking?
We're good. Yeah, that's good. I got to jump to another. I'm 8 minutes late, but it was an internal call, so it's all good.
You do your thing. If you want to sync up on the other projects,
I do want to. I need to get through my notes and then maybe just. I need your help with some Klaviyo stuff, and then so maybe we can carve out like a. Will you send me like some availability like Monday, Tuesday, if you have any?
I think I've got some. I think I have some Monday. I've got to check my schedule. I think around Monday, around 1:30 should be open.
You can email me sometimes that you have available.
I will.
We'll carve out an hour.
I've got this really compressed, awkward schedule right now. Or I could just take a call while holding little man on Tuesday or something.
Yeah. Either way, just shoot me some times and we can figure it out.
Rock and roll. But hey, this was fun. This was a good conversation.
Yeah, man.
And then I'll when this stops, I'll just upload the digital copy to
it saves it in a folder. You'll have the audio and the video, so if you'll send me both.
Yeah, and then I will you'll have it to use.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, I'll get everything produced.
Honestly, I think we went like 45 minutes before we actually started talking, so
no, I timed it at like 38 minutes. So it was good.
And it was just like before we started, I started the meeting at 2:15, so it's just been going forever. So
it's cool. My guys will do all the editing stuff, so they kick it out. So whatever, they're used to it.
Okay, rock and roll.
Cool. All right, bro.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.